Welcome back to another episode of Young Checks Podcast. I'm Reyshan Parker. I have a fantastic guest today. His name is Myles Spencer. He's gone from humble beginnings in Pittsburgh through the world of digital marketing to be he's done a lot of stuff in the financial world. Ladies and gentlemen, Myles Spencer. Let's learn about Myles.
Hi, Myles. Reyshan, how you doing? I'm doing well.
Fantastic. I do hear an accent.
Probably.
Just slightly.
Probably not. I mean, basically, I'm from Beaver County, which is 27 miles north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the same county as Butler, which unfortunately got in the news last month. And I've been told generally that I have very little accent at all. So people have a difficult time placing where I'm from if they don't already know. So I've spent most of my life on the East Coast, but not Boston.
Not Boston. Because I did read in your bio, you have a particular style of English that I was like, what does that mean?
Well, I've been accused of that particular style of English because sometimes I don't finish sentences. Sometimes I finish them 3 or 4 times and forget what the question was. I think this started a little bit with like email and text, where I thought my answers were complete, and a lot of people would say like, you have to interpret for Myles sometimes. And we travel quite a bit overseas, so there are different languages involved, and that makes it even worse. So I often have anyone from guides to loved ones just look at the rest of the table and say, like, it's okay. We'll fill in the blanks when he's done. Don't worry. So I think it's English.
Yeah, no, I mean, that seemed like a complete sentence to me. So all good there. Anyway, so you're an author. You've run some media companies. Tell me about yourself. Just give me a quick overview.
You know, what I lead with is I'm a father. I've got a 13-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl. Of course, they think they're like 15, 17. What I find interesting in parenting them is there are so many similarities between coaching the kids and coaching the entrepreneurs. It's almost the same business. Picasso, I think, was the one that said, it took me my whole life to learn how to paint like a child. And I have to admit, I learned from those two, and I use it on the entrepreneurs that I work with more often than the reverse.
More of just a free spirit and desire just to create without the stress of the adulthood and the structures that we have around ourselves. They just grab the paintbrush and they dive in with unabashed abandon, right?
Simplicity rules the day, right? I think that's a huge part of the equation. I think as we get older, we get all fancy with doing it right, doing it this way, presenting it that way. And the reality,
staying between the lines.
Yeah, exactly. The reality is the kids just fire away. And, I have a real respect for that. So besides my main job as a father, I have had the pleasure of founding and building and exiting 3 digital media businesses, about 1,100 employees. It's important to note that besides exiting 3, I started 20 others that didn't work. Nobody wants to talk about those for some reason, but the 3 that did worked out very well and created 1,000 jobs.
Let's talk about the ones that didn't.
Sure.
What went wrong, right? Because you learned way more from those problems than you ever will from. I mean, you've obviously come up with a solid recipe now, but to get there, what were the pitfalls that caused those not to succeed?
There's some themes there, and I try to track them so that don't make that mistake next time. Being too early is probably not a mistake because being too late means things are too expensive and you're never really going to get there. So you have to be early. But I have ideas. I have had ideas that I started businesses on that 10, 15, 20 years later became big businesses from someone else. We were just too early. But you know what? They say in the lottery, you got to be in it to win it. So Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I definitely take those shots. but oftentimes we're too early. Very rarely do we fail to ship a product. So my business has basically been find a problem in society that can be improved slightly by technology and apply that, turn it into a product, and create a marketplace for it. So I love doing that. Very rarely, if never, have I failed to ship a product. Does this resonate? But sometimes nobody cares, or nobody cares enough to change from the old alternative to the new product. And we've hit that speed bump many a times. And you just pick yourself up, you learn what you can from the experience, and you move on.
Well, I mean, that's the digital space overreachingly when it comes into contact with business that's been around for a while, or people who just don't understand the digital world but still want a business, and you have to show them the way, if you will. Which is kind of like teaching your grandma to use an iPad, but give it enough time and enough patience, you're gonna get there.
Usually correct. The way I like to say it is, if you have a product that you feel is obviously something that that we can succeed at, then can you have enough capital to have can you stay liquid longer than they can stay crazy, right? Because eventually they have to buy the product, right? Well, if you run out of money or support before they do, you lose. Balance. Yeah.
How about a success story? A particular love of yours that just happened to work out.
I'm going to go with a company called Aptaris, which originally was a set of printing presses owned by a dear friend, Tom O'Reilly, down in Tampa, Florida. And he printed coupons for grocery stores. They had like $20 million worth of printing presses down in this plant. And it was really a pain. It was messy, and it was really a pain business. But he did have this one piece of software that allowed people to create their coupons a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently, redeem much better, etc. And he called me down for a walk through the plant and a strategy session, and kind of shrugged our shoulders and said, why don't we lose about 20,000 tons from this business? Sold the printing presses.
And that's the printing presses?
It's the printing presses. He began selling the software, and eventually the software took over, and he was able to sell that to a company called dunnhumby, which is owned by Tesco. And it was just a wonderful story of, he's doing the same thing for the same customers, but he just boiled it down to, I don't have to have printing presses. I don't have to buy ink. I don't have to stack paper. The real value add here is the software that allows this whole thing to come together. So why don't we just sell that? Obviously, it's a much less capital intensive business.
And a perfect timing scenario.
It was. Those presses aren't around anywhere today. So getting into the software side of it was the right. And he's a delightful entrepreneur. Actually, just bought another business serving again the grocery trade. This time with refrigerated units on end caps called Super Fridge, and looks like we're going to do it again. So working together with entrepreneurs that I've worked with before, they trust me. We know the value add. That's a lot of fun. Yeah. Working with friends and doing things you love. It's kind of not really work.
All right. So what's your most, what would you say your expertise lies in the most? Are you into marketing? Are you into just product development? Where do you land when it comes to like the business attributes that you find you're most skilled at?
I'm going to go with strategy, Reyshan. I seem to have a knack for understanding what's missing from the marketplace, like skip that little void that could be exploited with a good solution. Product development is something I'm working on a ton right now for an entertainment platform and app that we own. So I really enjoy that. You know, product is priority. Everybody has an idea about what the thing should do, how big the button should be, and which one's first, how the user is going to interact. But the reality is, product is priority, right? You take that list of 100 things you want to do, and you say, like, okay, if we don't do these 5, nothing else matters. You kind of ask yourself that question every 2 weeks, and that's product development. Marketing for sure, finance a little bit. So bit of a jack of all trades. Lately, I've enjoyed product development quite a bit.
Nice. You're also an author.
I am.
You are.
I think we connected through this book, A Line in the Sand. It's actually my second book. The first one was a business book from many years back, but this particular book, A Line in the Sand, which is available on Amazon, was actually the result of a chance meeting I had with an old friend who came back through town. This was after 9/11, significantly after. We were still trying to figure out, gosh, what had happened and why and who and what were they thinking, and just trying to piece things together, like get some closure. And I was reading a book by T.E. Lawrence called 7 Pillars of Wisdom. He actually is the original, the Lawrence of Arabia, right, from the movie. That is a guy, he wrote a book, and he actually tells an incredibly detailed story of the Arab Revolt, but more importantly, the people of that region. And my friend Wells came through town, and he said, I'm reading the same book, trying to understand the same thing. So yeah, he's a bit of an adventurer, you might say. Navy ex-parachute rescue team, Antarctica, runs on 12,000-foot peaks, takes ice baths for breakfast. And
I'm a little jealous of that, actually.
Right. I do my bit too. I'm more scuba. We both skydive. We've done some interesting things, including running with the bulls last year in Pamplona. And Wells said to me, the only way we're really going to understand the people and the culture and the reason is to go there. Now, not so easy to get a ticket, no less an invite to Saudi Arabia, especially back a decade ago. And because of my first book, I was invited to give a speech in Riyadh, which I did. And I guess they liked it because we were inside the tent at that point. And they said to us, what else do you want to see? And we immediately launched into this 1,100-mile trek from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, along the Red Sea coast from Al-Wej to Yenbud, Aqaba, across to Wadi Rum, which is in Jordan. It's like this moonscape worthy of Star Wars or Dune or something like that. And through the border with Syria up to Damascus and an area called Homs, which a fantastic Crusader castle called Croix Chevalier is, again, something that T.E. Lawrence was tremendously interested in, and then passed back through Jordan and crossed the King Hussein Bridge into Israel and spent time in Jerusalem. So total of 27 days and 1,100 miles on foot, camel and horseback, but more importantly, got to know the people and the culture and the food. And our takeaways, we hope, were a much more balanced view of the region. And after October 7th happened last year, about a year ago, Wells and I said, we need to get this story out. And if we do it well, we'll entertain people. And if they're entertained, by the end of the story, they may have learned something. And that's been our mission since the book was published. And people, by all accounts, seem to love it and seem to be saying those kind of things. But I was also an amateur chef. Yeah, I was also an amateur chef at one time. So I love the food aspect of things, and we actually publish.
I'm gonna ask you about what you ate on that long journey, but we gotta rewind real quick. So they invited you to the thing. You did the speech. You're just hanging out, and they're like, "Anything else we could do for you?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'd like to go on a month-long trek across your country." And they're like, "Yeah, no problem. Let's go." How the hell?
It seems implausible, perhaps. That is basically how it happened. And I think
they are really accommodating over there, aren't they?
Well,
once you're in,
that's something one must understand is that in our experience with the people, first of all, there were not a lot of Americans visiting Saudi Arabia after 9/11. And so having two Americans that people could tell their story to was a great honor to them. And they expressed it as such. And they really, really rolled out the red carpet. Now, that doesn't mean everybody had the means to roll out the red carpet. We had very humble Arab coffee and breakfasts and the like in very humble tents in the desert. And eventually we had very elaborate banquets with royals. And the one of the through lines there was much more hospitable and personable than you would think. Now, of course, we didn't, the perpetrators of 9/11 were not hosting us, right? I'm sure there's some people that may not have wanted us there, but the ones that we spent our time with, and again, they didn't know we were coming. They were extremely welcoming.
That's awesome. Do you does the word or the Najruddin mean anything to you?
Not Mujahideen. Did you say Najruddin?
So it's a Sufi character, and God, what was the author's name? But Sufism, and if you know Sufism at all, it's just a lot of very simple kind of puns and witty jokes to make their points. And Najruddin was one of those main characters, and I can't think of the author's name right off the top of my head, but played a major role in that. And it was, going across all these same lands that you're mentioning. And my father was, that Sufism tales are like, anecdotes by Najruddin or something. It's just funny. He gets off like getting off of the, he's got 11 donkeys, right? And he gets on the donkeys to take them to the next town, and he turns around to count them and count 1, 2, 3, 10. Well, there's supposed to be 11 donkeys. He's very frustrated. He's lost a donkey. He's very frustrated. He gets off. He looks around everywhere for the donkey. He can't find the donkey. Decides to count them again. Counts them again. 11 donkeys. Well, they must have come back. He's got 11 donkeys. He gets back on the donkey. Takes off towards the town again. Turns around and checks to make sure he's got all the donkeys again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 donkeys. He's lost a donkey again. He finally arrives and apologizes and says, "I'm so sorry that I've lost one of your donkeys." And the guy's like, "What are you talking about? There's 11 donkeys here." Like, Najruddin, you forgot to count the donkey that you were riding.
You were wrong. I sort of saw that coming. Yeah.
But just a series of, quirky anecdotal stories that Najruddin, that silly Sufi man gets into.
Very cool. Very cool.
Anyway, food. Yeah. So amateur chef traveling through Arabia. What are you eating?
Well, the beginning of the book actually starts in England and France. So there's a little bit of a combination of these three grandmas that are revealing this mystery to us. And they always do it over a meal, of course. So, in London, we had Scotch eggs. You ever have Scotch eggs?
I do know Scotch eggs. Scotch eggs are delicious.
I have not quite acquired that taste. It's like, I love deviled eggs. I love eggs Benedict. I love eggs all kinds of different ways, but they're like eating a car bomb. I mean, that is heavy. So
with the sausage and everything wrapped around it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But the one that kept surfacing throughout the book was a baba ganoush, which, of course, the eggplant and the onions and the garlic are actually roasted and broken by hand so that they're not put in a blender, right? It's a little bit chunky, a little bit soupy, and each one of these baba ganoush was actually in the book, dressed with a certain consistent seed that is very unique. I'd never seen a baba ganoush before. It's pomegranate. And so it almost looks like a Christmas dish. A little bit of parsley, green, a little bit of pomegranate, red, pink, and then the baba ganoush. And wow, try it sometime. Absolutely.
The whole seeds just cooked down?
Oh yeah. No, they're edible.
Softened up and I think
It's
they're really good for you,
unique-
actually. They're just hard to chew.
That is correct. So each one of as the mystery is revealed throughout the book, the two characters, Magnus and Finn, which are loosely based on the experience of Myles and Wells, they keep seeing this baba ganoush with a very specific extra ingredient showing up in different places at different times. And so they begin to piece together that something may be up with the grandmothers. The grandmothers may know more than everybody else does. Of course, Fatouche, a wonderful Christmas
grandmas
salad, right? I recall one day in Damascus, after a very, very, very long trek, we arrived in town. It was a French little auberge, or bed and breakfast, and they serve delicious French croissants. It's a French, it's been French for a few hundred years. Sometimes under protest, but nevertheless, tremendous French influence. Everyone speaks French there. And we had croissants, butter, and rose petal jam. I'd never had it before. Took a spoonful, put it on. It was so fragrant. I put it onto my croissant. How else? You gotta taste it. Yeah, he's like, I'm not a croissant guy. No, you gotta taste it. Well, he and I finished, probably a dozen croissants between us and a stick of butter and all of the rose petal jam because we couldn't bring it home. And to this day, I can remember that flavor simply taken by blanching and squeezing the juice of pectin out of rose petal. Yeah.
Have you ever tried it?
Oh, since yes, I've made it since. You have to find essentially a bitter rose. That could be sea roses, not the pretty ones you get for Valentine's Day that really have the flavor. But I've tried several different ones, and the reality is it was never as good as it was at Biet El Mamluka in Damascus, Syria. So there you have it. So
you gotta try. You
gotta try. I found that another interesting thing about food there was it was used as a negotiating device often. And so we would walk into these tents and walk into these banquets and walk into these sessions where it was clear that we wanted to learn something else. And they had that information. And it was clear they wanted something from us. It was also clear that we were hungry. And so often the back would be some brazier with the smell of fresh lamb wafting through the tent, or walk by with mansaf, which is this wonderful rice and vegetable dish. And no, not yet. Not ready to eat yet. One more question.
Hungry.
Yeah. The only time that food was not used as a negotiating device on us was at a restaurant called Fuddruckers in Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi has taken many American fast food franchises, brought them to Saudi, and Fuddruckers was one of them. We were with a man by the name of Osama.
Did not know that.
Yeah, right. And here we are in the middle of Saudi desert. It was a gas station. And I had Fuddruckers. And we pulled off. The interesting thing to me was that we were with 3 Saudi Bedouin, myself and Wells. And between us, we kind of like split 2 Fuddrucker burgers and like a half a piece.
How was it?
It was pretty good, actually. It was just so much more food than we were accustomed to eating. You go to that same Fuddruckers in Texas, and 2,000 or 3,000 calories are going to go down without blinking an eye, right? And it just goes to show the Bedouin mentality and the Bedouin custom of when and how they eat versus perhaps Americans and how we eat.
So how do they eat? I mean, we eat like trash. How do they? I mean, I imagine the food is at least a little more real food, unless, of course, they're just obsessed with America.
No. Oh, well, let's set aside their fast food, Jack in the Box and the Taco Bells and things like that they put up.
But they're there. That's crazy. I didn't even know they were there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they're there. But in general,
I bet it's still better than our Taco Bell. I bet
probably
$100 it's better than our Taco Bell.
But when you get out to the desert, look, the food is not processed. It generally is fresh because it has to be. It is simple food, and they generally don't eat 3 meals a day. It's tea or coffee for breakfast. Rarely anything else, a large meal at lunch, and they crash. And essentially they fast, 16 to 20 hours a day, which is actually probably healthier. I don't know the obesity rates there versus here, but from casual observance, these guys are not carrying. Yeah, they're not carrying a lot of extra weight around. Not in the desert, that's for sure.
Not in the desert. Yeah, good for them. They don't know it, but we could learn a lesson or two.
Yes.
16.8. I tried a 16.8 most of the time, but I have a terrible addiction to French vanilla creamer. Real cream, not the crappy cream. Real. I think it's even grass fed, but it's got sugar in it.
Right. I'm a 16.8 guy as well. I've recently completed a 75-hour fast, just water. It was kind of like a cellular reset for me. Hey, look, at a certain age, we start to process things a little bit slower. And I'm starting to recognize that. My knees are starting to recognize that. So
my knees recently. I have 2 hip replacements, and I was great. And then I really like playing basketball still. And damn it, the knees just aren't cooperating. The hips are great. Now the knees don't want to play.
I recently had someone describe their knees as the sound that a goat makes chewing on an aluminum beer can with celery inside of it.
Oh, okay. But I'm not there yet. Not there.
I'm closer than I'd like to be. That's for sure.
But I definitely can tell the difference of inflammation in my body based on what I eat.
Yeah.
For the most part, I eat real food and I cook most of the time.
Yes.
But if I cheat, like Halloween, it was just Halloween, and I don't know when the last time I ate a Snickers or an actual candy bar was. But my wife is insistent upon at least having the candy just in case kids show up at our door. And then it's like, I'll just eat a couple of these. They're the bite-sized ones, right?
That's right.
And man, I woke up the next day feeling so sick from just eating a couple little candy bars. Then I felt like my brain didn't work. Like nothing was working, and I just felt ugh. And I wasn't hungover. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything. It was just I ate candy bars for the first time in over a year.
And we pay, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So no more candy bars. I like my chocolate, real chocolate. I'm good with just eating some real chocolate.
Brett?
Just nothing by Mars or Hershey's. It'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, just 85 cocoa at least. Anyway,
for sure.
For sure. So fun question. What are you having for dinner tonight?
It's interesting. Kids are back at the house. I've boiled some bones for some chicken stock. Probably not going to do that. I made some fresh chicken soup for my daughter, who's a bit under the weather, and I'm trying to decide whether chicken soup's going to solve it. I think it will. I made two sourdough bowls this weekend. That's an interesting process. That was kind of a COVID experiment where the science didn't lead to anything edible for about 9 months. And then I started cracking the code finally. And now I have a delightfully edible bowl.
Starter.
Roasted some acorn squash earlier today. That came out of my sister's garden. So it's probably going to be acorn squash, roasted vegetables, probably dress up chicken that I roasted over the weekend. It's that interesting balance of trying to get the kids to eat something.
But you just described like the perfect fall dinner. That's like the perfect fall time.
Pretty much. The question is whether, how many bites of it the kids actually put in their mouth. I mean, Tuesday is taco day. We always have a guest over and that's easy. Boom, tacos. But Monday's a little bit more experimental. But Reyshan, I really believe I believe in the fact that we have so few chances to connect with our kids and our families and our loved ones X the screens anymore. So going to a market on a Saturday, choosing some things that might be interesting. I love celeriac. You know what celeriac is? It's the ball under celery. Celery remoulade, celery soup, such an interesting thing. Picked that up in the market this weekend. But going to the market, teaching my kids how to make things, then sitting at the table and capturing them again for a half an hour or 45 minutes, no screens, no devices, just solve the problems of the world, right? There are precious few other opportunities we have to really connect, but food, especially if you're able to find it, prepare it, and eat it together.
Getting them completely involved in the full process allows them to be completely involved in the full process.
No offense, but Uber Eats, everybody in a different room eating out of a plastic tray, watching a separate screen is not my vision of bringing the family together. So...
that sounds awful. How many households in America are doing that?
I know a few. I know. In a pinch, okay, right? But
no, guys. Nothing's ever good when you get it Uber Eats anyway. It's always just it's just not. It's not good. Why I don't want my food a half an hour after it got made? It's not good now.
So there are a few things that I believe travel well. Right.
Spaghetti.
Chinese food in Metro New York is designed to be served in those little cardboard boxes, right? With the metal handle on top.
Oh, they taste better out of the box.
I think they do, right?
They just do.
And I found that Indian Matar paneer, saag paneer, chicken tikka masala, some of those dishes travel pretty well, and the rice does just fine. But after that, nothing else.
No, I don't want a cheeseburger. I don't want a steak. Like what? No.
Fries?
Fries? No. Now I just have to air fry them when they get home. Which
no.
French fries are the the hair that nobody wants on their camel's back.
Yes.
Because we all love them, and they are literally worse than smoking cigarettes if you eat them anywhere outside of your own home that you made yourself. Right? Yep. It's literally the scariest thing I've ever heard this Halloween season is literally, and I knew that. I already know that. And it's the oil, right? It's the reused oil at the restaurants, at your fast food restaurants, anywhere else. I don't even fry my French fries. I make the best oven baked French fries.
Right. A little bit of paprika, salt.
One fry at a time. Each one gets love. It gets turned individually.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Well put. Yeah.
And they taste better because I loved each and every one.
That's right.
Little fries.
That's right. What do you like your fries with?
I mean, I like a steak free. Like my wife has to have a potato with her steak. She's insistent she won't eat a sweet potato.
Right.
So steak frites, but with the French fries,
right.
Which is super simple. Really.
You ever put malt vinegar and salt on your fries?
Oh yeah,
like
I love me a malt vinegar fry.
Chips.
Mm-hmm.
Like a nice thick fry.
Like back at the fairs when we were younger. That's what you malt vinegar was. You always had the malt vinegar with the paper cups, right? And the
salt, malt vinegar, then just a little touch of ketchup, and man, you're off to the races.
See, why are they so delicious? It's like bacon's healthier than French fries.
That I didn't know.
Yeah,
we go through a lot of bacon.
I mean, as long as you don't have the nitrates in it, right? And right. So eating French fries out and about is worse for you than eating non-nitrate.
Well, I think I personally often eat oysters here on the East Coast of Connecticut. There's tons of oyster beds and wonderful quality oysters at a reasonable price, and so that's probably a once a week dish for me. And
I also love oysters.
Usually goes well with a nice glass of white wine, very cold, Sancerre. And then, of course, once the judgment is impaired, someone at the table's like, why don't we get French fries with this? And then,
like, yes, give me the French fries.
Starts with healthy protein, compromised by a well-paired wine. I say paired, but it's always the same thing. It's a Sancerre. And then it's like, well, sure would be good to have fries with this.
Sure would. Now, if you're in the right place, you might be able to get yourself some nice truffle fries, which are going to be totally fine for you too. Well,
right.
Far and few between. There's a seed oil scout app now that if you pay like $3 a year, it'll tell you what type of oil the restaurants use. So you can find one that you can go to. If you're really, I try not to be that crazy about stuff.
Would I go to a restaurant because of the oil they're frying their fries in, or would I avoid one? No, I probably just wouldn't eat it, right? I mean, I have enough willpower to say, like,
give me the collard greens.
The rest of the food is good, but your fries scare me. I'm out on that. You know what's also good? Like non sequitur here, but who cares?
Go ahead. Take us in a new direction, sir.
This is delightful. But okay, so the connection is fried. Okay, so I love chai jiao, which in Vietnam would be called nems, which is basically a spring roll to the pork or vegetables or shrimp or a combination thereof. And made properly with nuoc mam, the fish sauce, carrots, wrap it in lettuce with bean sprouts and some what do they put in there? Usually mint or basil. And you dump it in the sauce. And wow! So we're in a place called St. Paul de Vence. No, we weren't. We were in St. Paul de Vence in France. It's on the coast, up in the hills above the coast, old medieval town. And walked around, did the medieval thing. Okay, felt very medieval, right? That's wonderful. They sell a lot of perfume.
Take that Renaissance Festival.
Yeah, you're right. They sell a lot of perfume for a medieval town, but they know who their customers are. So, we walked by this tiny little hole in the wall Vietnamese restaurant that had 40 tables outside, all set, all with a little sign that said reserved. Like, all right, no one's here yet. They open at 5 and they're sold out. Something's going on. Something is going on here. And I go over, I look at the menu. Sure enough, it has chai jiao on it. I said, hey, my partner. So honey, can we circle back? Yeah. And we went and bought some more perfume and stuff. And we circled back at 5 o'clock and served by 5:01. Places, it's an outside courtyard. One table didn't show. She gave it to us. We had an order of chai jiao. which I always say, ciao, ciao. And that's my Vietnamese. And I entertain nobody with that except you and myself.
I am entertained, sir.
Yeah, so the waiter looks at me like, what is wrong? Once again, would someone interpret this guy's English? Did he just say cha cha? And so we had one, and she served the first one to us, and she said, anything else, right? Like you've only ordered one thing. Mm-hmm. I said, yes. More of it. 8 spring rolls until we couldn't anymore, and we left.
I do love a spring roll.
I do not know the name of the place, but it's by the old church in St. Paul de Vence. If anybody ever gets up to that part of the world, there is a Vietnamese restaurant with 50 tables outside and 2 little chefs from Hanoi in the back that make the most delicious chai jiao. And I hope that they do a good business, but I haven't ruined it for myself when I go back there because I'd like to get a table.
Fantastic story, sir. Now I need to go get spring rolls of any kind, some Indian food too for some reason. I don't know why. I haven't eaten yet today. It's almost 4:00 here. We're getting close. So I think that's what I'm going to have for dinner. I'm going to go get Thai food so I can get curry and spring rolls.
Perfect.
That's going to suffice me now. Thank you for inspiring me. Mike, where can we find you if anyone wants to just hang out with you and learn more about Myles? I need my glasses on because from here I look at your name and it looks like
Mike's. Yeah, it's Mike's with an S, right? Yeah.
I'm just like,
I do it all the time. People do it all the time. It actually is miles, kilometers, miles.
Because I know it's miles, but my eyes look at it and my comes out wrong.
To go. Yeah. So I have a blog called Myles to Go, MylesSpencer.com, which I tend to publish my random thoughts on a regular basis. The book is a big reason that I do the podcasts these days. That's A Line in the Sand book.com. Also available on Audible, which Eduardo Ballerini actually read it for us. And his spoken word is so much better than my written word. It's not even funny, even though they're the same words. So you can hear a sample actually on the Audible version right there on Amazon. And it's the first chapter from the book, which is set in Pamplona, Spain. But he does a wonderful job, however you like to read things. I hope that we can entertain people, as we've done today, perhaps, but also teach them a little bit about the history and culture of the region so that perhaps their understanding leads to a bit of a better world.
Bravo, sir. Bravo. Well said. It is a region of the world I think most of us here in the States don't really understand or get shown very often. You know, it's kind of an iron curtain and mystique behind the Arabs that, you know, maybe if we read your book, we're going to get a better understanding of. So everybody go get Myles Spencer's book. Link is right down there. Listen to the audiobook. Apparently the guy who reads it is fantastic. I hear fabulous things. And Myles, keep up the good work. Being a dad, make him eat that soup. It sounds delicious.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Thanks for being here, and may your life's journey continue.
Likewise.
Cheers, everyone! Go get Myles' book and go check out his blog. And he's an awesome dude, and he's got some awesome stories. So I'm sure you'd be happy if you reached out to him. Cheers. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Reyshan.
Order up.